Hi everybody, my name is Sarah Kay.
And I'm Phil Kaye, and we're both so happy to get to share some poems of ours with you today.
This poem is a poem for my little brother. Little brother, you jaywalked your way out of the womb. I would recognize you anywhere by the hiccup in your swagger. Tell me, where in the world did you find all that thunder? There have never been any seatbelts on your side of the car. You have always known the better magic tricks. You told me once that I was just the first draft, and I'm inclined to believe you, but you came with a lot more pieces to assemble, and Mom and Dad, they never got the manual. Your compass always points north. But it's a bit of a guessing game as to whether or not you'll ever really walk in that direction, and I like that. It keeps people on their toes. On the merry-go-round of your life, the carousel ponies are all narwhals. Their horns point straight up. The day they build you a constellation, it will be the entire F train spread across the Milky Way. You will be a satellite who dips in and out of every single car the instant the train comes to a stop, annoying everybody on the subway platform and kicking up stardust in your wake. You can solve a Law & Order episode before the first commercial break. Once, when you were 7, you came into the kitchen and asked Mom, "Does my name begin with the letter P because P is the 16th letter of the alphabet and I was born on June 16th? And is Sarah just Sarah because S is the 19th letter of the alphabet and she was born on the 19th day of June?" And when Mom said, "No," you nodded your head and left the kitchen mumbling to yourself, "Okay, just salt and pepper then." You are my favorite stick of dynamite. You are the opposite of a rubber band. There are so many things I would tell you if I thought that you would listen, and so many more you'd tell me if you believed I would understand. I hope you know you were never meant to wear this shadow. In fact, I'm the one that always steals your shoes. But is that my sweatshirt you're wearing? It's okay. You can keep it. I won't tell your secret. In fact, it really does look better on you.
This is a poem about me and one of my best friends growing up, and a story that we always remember and that I wanted to share with you today. It is summertime in the 90s, before the internet, and 9-year-old me is sitting on a couch with Ben, my best friend, who has a bowl cut like I do. And I ask Ben what he wants to do, and Ben says what he always says. "I don't know, dude, what do you want to do?" And I don't know either, because it's already been 2 months into summertime, and we have done everything we think we can do. Played basketball so many times, Ben knows I do not go left. Stayed up until midnight to watch the R-rated VHS tapes my mother owns. Toilet papered every house on the street except for our own. And so we turn on the television and Indiana Jones is playing. And after it's done, we go outside because there is no internet. And we stare at the big tree on our street. The tree that is bigger than Ben's entire house. The tree that we have never been able to climb because we are little kids. But now we are little kids that just watched Indiana Jones. So we find some old bungee cords. And the hooks of those bungee cords find themselves into our belt loops. And now we are halfway up the tree that is bigger than Ben's entire house. And when I get tired, I sit back and I swing. And I quietly think to myself, maybe I am Indiana Jones. And Ben quietly thinks to himself, maybe this is a bad idea. And my belt loops quietly think to themselves, ow. But we are all thinking quietly. And so for a moment, it is silent. And I transform into things I've never been before. An astronaut floating in space, a hummingbird buzzing in place, a beam of August light floating through the leaves. And then I hear a crack, which is not Indiana Jones's whip, but my belt loops snapping apart, shrieking relief, and I fall all the way down the tree onto my back. And Ben rushes over and says, "Are you okay?" And I say, "I think so." And Ben starts to laugh. And I start to laugh. And I'm bleeding from my elbow, but it's just a scrape. And that means I am human and alive and here today. And we sit quietly under the tree until my mother comes looking.
This poem is a love letter from a toothbrush to a bicycle tire. They told me that I was meant for the cleaner life, that you would drag me through the mud. They said that you would tread all over me, that they could see right through you, that you were full of hot air, that I would always be chasing, always watching you disappear after sleeker models, that it would be a vicious cycle. But I know better. I know about your rough edges, and I have seen your perfect curves. I will fit into whatever spaces you let me. If loving you means getting dirty, bring on the grime. I will leave this porcelain home behind. I'm used to twice-a-day relationships, but with you, I'll take all the time. And I know we live in different worlds, and we're always really busy, but in my dreams, you spin around me so fast, I always wake up dizzy. So maybe one day you'll grow tired of the road and roll on back to me. And when I blink my eyes into morning, your smile will be the only one I see.
This is a poem about my grandfather who owned a small business in San Pedro, California, and who I miss a ton. My grandfather was not a strong man, but he knew what it meant to build. In 1947, after he and my great-uncles came back from the Second World War, they opened up the Union War Surplus Store. The store's slogan, "From a battleship to a hunting knife, we have it or we'll get it." My grandfather was not a strong man, but he kept his word. The place was half store, half encyclopedia, packed all the way to the ceiling with odd objects that somebody somewhere might want. Steel-toe boots made of velvet, fire-resistant overalls, a Czechoslovakian dental kit from 1964. Packed all the way to the basement with people that somebody somewhere else might forget about, but not here. Like Richard. Richard, who did not work there, but showed up every Sunday afternoon in his full military uniform. Never bought a single thing, but once brought his little girl, held her hand, said, this is what it smelled like when Daddy was a hero. My grandfather was not a strong man, but he kept us safe. We walked together in the park one night, and a jagged man with more tattoo than skin walked up directly to my grandfather, said, "Hey, old man, my mother used to take me to the store when I was a kid. You shook my hand once, like I was a man." I still remember that. My grandfather's office was upstairs, but he liked to work down on the floor. Everybody called him Cheerful Al, with his big belly, bald head, long gray beard. Little kids would see him and go, "Santa Claus." 6 years after Union War Surplus Store opened its doors, my grandfather had a son, my dad. He is not a strong man, but he knows what it means to build. One summer when he was a teenager, My dad worked at the store, built a door in the back. It's still there. 40 years after Union War surplus store opened its doors, my father had a son. I am not a strong boy, but I'm trying to learn what it means to build. One summer, when I was a teenager, I worked at the store, built this display that went all the way up to the ceiling. When I finished, I showed my grandfather what I had done. Very good, very good. When I asked him what to do next, he handed me an old piece of paper, a beat-up pen. When I asked him what to do with it, he shrugged his shoulders and laughed. And I began to build the only way I know how.
This poem is for our youngest poem friends. It's lovely to read in the bathtub, but be careful your book doesn't slip. You can read as you sit in a doorframe, but don't cause someone to trip. You can read while under the covers with the help of a secret flashlight. You can climb up a tree and read there as long as you're not scared of heights. You can read in a tent if you're camping or out in the woods on a hike. You can read with a cup of hot cocoa by a fireplace, if you'd like. You could read on a bus or the subway, as long as you don't miss your stop. You can read while you swing in a hammock, but don't swing too hard or you'll plop. You can read as you lounge in a beach chair, wear some SPF that is strong. You can read while you sit on the toilet, but don't sit there too long. You can read by yourself in silence or read out loud with a friend. You can ask your local librarian and see what books they recommend.
This is our last poem, and it's also for our youngest poem friends. It goes like this. In my house, there's a song that plays every morning. It starts when the alarm clock goes "ing, ing, ing, ing," and I slowly get out of bed. And the toothpaste goes, and the faucet goes, "Shh," and the toothbrush goes, "Ch-ch-ch-ch-ch-ch." At my house, there's a song that plays every morning. My mom goes, "Time to wake up." My sister goes, "5 more minutes." My dog goes, and my cat goes, "Hmm." At my house, there's a song that plays every morning. The milk goes, "Go, go, 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 go." The cereal goes, "Crunch, crunch, 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 crunch." The bacon goes, "Shh." And the blender goes, "Vroom, vroom, vroom." At my house, there's a song that plays every morning. The radio goes, "I'm all about the bass, about the bass, about the bass, no treble." The TV goes, "Wah, wah, 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 wah." My phone goes, "Look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me." At my house, there's a song that plays every morning. It's the soundtrack to my family. I would recognize it anywhere. It goes, "Ee, ee, ee, ee." It goes, "Time to wake up." 5 more minutes. Time to wake up. 5 more minutes. It goes, "Go, go, 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 crunch, 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 vroom, vroom, vroom." At my house, there's a song that plays every morning. I would recognize it anywhere, even if it was out of order, even if it went, "Go, go, 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 look at me, 5 more minutes, womp." Or, "I'm all about the crunch, go, go. I'm all about the crunch, go, go. I'm all about the crunch, go, go, crunch, go, go, crunch, go, go, womp, womp, crunch, go, go, crunch, go, go, crunch, go, go, crunch, 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 crunch." I'm all about the... In my house, there's a song that plays every morning. It's the song I learned to walk to tie my shoes to dry my eyes to. And when I miss my family, I close my eyes and I listen and I can almost dance.
Thanks so much for listening, and thanks for including us and our poems in your day.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.